caught up in the static and noise. Somehow I lost your voice, and I was spinning out of control. Come on. But you were always there, waiting patiently. You are never far away from me, and I am still your own. Even when I waver, I am not too far away. Oh, Jesus is running to me, running to me. Oh, Jesus is coming for me, coming for me. Oh, my Savior is calling my name, calling me free. Jesus, you never give up on me. Come on. You never give up on me. Come on. Never give up on me. And drawn into a city of lights, and I had lost you from my side. You never lost sight of me. But you were always there, waiting patiently. You're never far, you are never far away from me, and I am still your own. Even when I waver, I am not too far. Jesus, you never give up on me. Never give up on me. Never give up on me. You never give up on me. You never give up on me. Oh, Jesus is running to me, running to me. Oh, Jesus is coming for me, coming for me. Oh, my Savior is calling my name, calling me free. Jesus, you never give up on me. You never give up on me. Come on. Yeah. That with us, come on. You are never far away from me. And I'm still your own. And I am still your own. Even when I waver, I am not too far away. Jesus is running to me, running to me. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus is coming for me, coming for me. Oh, my Savior is calling my name. give up. You'll never give up on me. You'll never give up on me. You're all around me. You're all around me. You're all around me. You're all around me. You are my protector. You are my protector. You are my protector. You are my protector. And you have always seen me.
It's good to be in church, yeah? Hey, welcome to Mosaic. Someone waved at me. Okay. My name's Aaron McManus. I'm Mariah's big brother. Though you looking tall right now. You look like an Easter egg. The cutest one in the whole, I meant as a compliment. There's gonna be issues later. I don't have a wife, I have a sister. And she gets equally mad at me. No, but it's good to be in church, yeah? We have an amazing thing today. We are doing Foundation Sunday. You can give it up. Oh, okay. We're gonna do it again. It's Foundation Sunday. Okay. And what that means, a bit of what that means is that, last week we do this in two parts. We have a Vision Sunday with my dad, and he gives us the vision of the church and what we're doing. And this year is you build what you love. Isn't that good? Don't you believe that? You build what you love. You build a family. You build a church. You build a business. You build something you love. And then this week is the ask. This week is the foundation. This is where we lay the foundation for the future of 2019. So before we do anything else, I want to thank every single person who's been a part of the foundation from 2018. Every person who's sacrificed, every person who's given above and beyond, every person who's made that conscious effort to step into what God is doing here in this city. And it's been an exciting year, hasn't it? We went from one location to 17,000 locations. And if you're on the live stream right now, if you're in Seattle, if you're in wherever you are, we want to say hi. We want you to know you're with us and that you're doing this with us. And whenever we're laying here, we're laying down in the Steve Jobs internet. And it's just crazy, the message that what God is doing in this city, on this corner, on Hollywood Boulevard and La Brea, is reaching homes and dorm rooms and offices and cell phones across this world, isn't it? So before we do anything else, say hi to the person next to you and just ask them a question. Do you build what you love? Okay? And then take a seat. This is the ladies section. This is the men's section. Hi, Mom. Okay. Did you figure it out? So we got something real quick. So you're new to Foundation Sunday. We're laying down the foundation of the church. This is one of the most important days, and it defines how strong we go into 2019. And one of the greatest things is we have this thing called the Mosaic app. You have it? Some people. We're working on it. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to download the Mosaic app on your phone. I want you to pull it out. Just get your phone, pull it out, go to the App Store, go to search Mosaic LA Church, even though we have churches all over. And we're gonna start there, because there's a thing in there, is our annual report. Give the details of our budget, what we're spending, how we're doing it, what we're investing in, some of the things that we've accomplished. And my dad's gonna actually walk us through some of it today in his message. But I want you to be able to follow along, and I want us to have this. I wanted to pray over this because I think this is gonna expand to 2019, yeah? We got some faith in this room? Come on, because if it's just, we got a little bit of faith in this room. Drummer. Okay. All right, you ready? We got a little video. Let's go. How cool is that? It just did it for you. It just showed you how to download the app. So there's no excuses. You got the app? Yeah? All right. Well, before I leave, because I'm hopefully leaving soon, I just want to give so much love. We started a campus called Mosaic Venice. this year. And we're with you guys all day today. And if it wasn't for your amazing campus pastors, Joe and Beck Smith, they just always welcome us in so much, and they've invested so much in our campus, and we've seen so many people's lives changed on the west side. And it's just amazing to see what God's doing here, and what God's doing over there, and God's doing in Mexico City, all over this world, this West Coast. I can't wait till we just jump across, Take that Drake flight to Toronto. I'm at it, let's go. Okay, we've got one more thing that talks about what we're doing, and then we're gonna get back into worship, okay? You excited? So Foundation Sunday, you ready to build what you love? I'm gonna go build what I love. Mom, I'm gonna save the seat.
The foundation on which love builds is sacrifice. The choices we make today, the sacrifices we make in this moment, have a direct impact on the future that we create for those who desperately need a future and hope. The question is, does God need to raise someone else to do what he's called us to do? Or are we gonna step up in this moment and create the future that God has invited us together to create? And that's why Mosaic is so important. That's why what we're doing together is so critical. That's why this foundation matters, because you cannot build on love if you don't have the foundation of sacrifice. People need to know there's a God who's for them, and they need to know the church is there to love them and care for them and to lift them up to live the life they were created to live. This is our responsibility. It is an act of love. Because when you love freely, you sacrifice fully. Brick by brick, layer by layer, we're building something by love. But it doesn't happen freely. It happens because people freely sacrifice.
Wow. There is a reason I love that man behind that voice. My name is Kim, if we don't know each other. I've been here for a long time. This is my home, this is my people, this is my tribe, this is my house, this is just who I am. I'm not anything without you, I'll tell you. And you're my community, and you're my tribe, and we've invested here. I want the offering team to come down immediately. I want us to prepare to give. They're on your seat. There are two offering envelopes. One says foundation giving, and the other one says giving. And if you would take that envelope for giving, we never do this. We never take two offerings. But God is so worth more than two offerings. It is just the heart space with which we are in. And we are never about the finances. We are always about the people. And I'm telling you, from being on the global front of this of Mosaic, your money spreads across the globe. And I love it because I get to see it firsthand, what it does from the chicken coops in Malawi, all the way to Puerto Rico, down into Mexico, all the way across the globe, into Australia, into the deepest reaches of our planet, even in India and beyond. And I want to say thank you so much. And as we prepare to give, I just want to read the scripture to you. Here's a scripture in Luke 6. It says this: be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Jesus is teaching us here. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. You know, I know people who measure and they're so small in their measurement. I wonder if when needing mercy, if they would be so small in their measurement. God is like, I want to give you mercy, and I want you to be just like me in giving yourself mercy. I want you to be that merciful to the world. It says, be merciful as your Father is. Jesus is saying, I just want you to become like your Father, your good Father, your loving Father, your merciful Father. Do not condemn. He does not condemn. I want you not to judge because he does not judge. I want you to forgive because you'll be whole when you forgive. You will be complete when you forgive. So when you forgive, be like your Father who forgives you liberally, extravagantly, excessively, daily, continually, eternally. He says, I just want you to be like my Father because I'm like my Father. And you're at your best when you're like my Father. And then when it comes to forgiveness, forgive. When it comes to condemnation, have none. When it comes to judgment, have none. When it comes to mercy, have much. And when it comes to giving, you give out of the very core of yourself, your heart. Because if Jesus is seeing anything, he is not seeing your shoes. He is not seeing your coffee or your jewelry or your hairstyle or your label. He is seeing your heart. He has a heart. He has a spotlight shined every day on your heart. What is the condition of your heart? And I know with Erwin and I and my family, it has to do with our finances and where they are. And it takes something out of you. It does. And it says, when you give and it will be given to you. Now, if you are really stuck on the second part, I'm going to give because I know it's going to be given back. I don't really preach that message. I just know it's a principle. It's a principle. I didn't make up the principle, so I don't have to be ashamed of teaching the principle. You give it, and it will be given back to you. Because when we became a giving family, it was given to us excessively, extravagantly, abundantly, disproportionately, continually. And it says, and it will be like this. It will be given in good measure, enough. It will begin like pressed down, like I can't contain it. It's all shaking and overflowing, and it's like filling up my lap. And it's like, woo, whoa, I can't get it. It's amazing. Oh, thank you. I got you. Thank you so much. And I'll take that, thank you. That's my offering. All right. There it goes. Kindness and kindness. All right, it says this. Shaken together, running over, we poured into your laps. Not with the measure you use, for with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. My cup is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're going to take this offering right now. And there's many ways you can give. That envelope that Jamar has is my last check. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to give recurring now. And for a long time, I fought that. I fought recurring giving because I love the gift. But I'm going to say that the many ways you can give are through texting Mosaic 77977 online at mosaic.org/give. The checks in the pocket and the Mosaic app. Give it to me, Jamar. Come on. This is my last check, all right, that I'm going to give, and then it goes to recurring. I don't know what your heart looks like today. We're going to give. Let's pray. Jesus, the measure with which we measure, it will be measured to us. I pray it is not a spoonful. I pray it is not with little. I pray, Father, that it was extravagant, disproportionate, because your mercy is great. Your forgiveness is great. Your gifts to us are great. And we, with open hearts, grateful hearts, we give to you. In Jesus' name, amen. We can pass the buckets. God bless you.
What's up, Mosaic? Welcome to Church News.
It is Foundation Sunday, and we are so happy that you're here with us. Thank you for joining us on this special day.
And it's officially holiday season. There's a lot going on in our community that you should know about.
During this season, a lot happens, and things change. We want you to stay up to date. So check us out on Instagram and give us a follow.
The official Mosaic app is where you can always stay connected with us and access even more resources for our community. So download it today.
We have some amazing volunteer teams, and serving on a team is one of the best ways to dive into our community and make lifelong friends.
Exactly. So go check out these teams and talk to a member of the Welcome team after the gathering at the Next Step area to find out more.
If you're in town for Thanksgiving, come hang with us. We have events going on at each campus. Go to mosaic.org/events for all the info.
Mosaic, Christmas is right around the corner and we couldn't be more excited.
Santa's coming to town.
Santa! Oh my God!
We're hosting our annual Christmas tree lighting in Hollywood on Sunday, December 2nd, right after the 8 p.m. gathering. Come ring in the Christmas season with your friends and family at Mosaic.
This is a tradition you don't want to miss. We'll see you there.
We've got a special announcement for the Woods. Next Sunday, there will be no evening gathering in Hollywood due to the Hollywood Christmas Parade. Instead of meeting here, we will be joining Mosaic Venice in Santa Monica at 6 p.m. You can get all the info in the Mosaic app or at mosaic.org/events. Here!
See, you go to, my range is like, Foundation Sunday. Thank you for joining us on Foundation Sunday. Make sure to meet someone new before you leave.
Please stand as we continue our time of worship.
Give away your freedom from my heart. The price you paid to give it to new life. The limits of your grace go past heavens. The universe cannot contain your How great is your love? My soul surrenders to who you are and all you've done. I'll lift my praises to you, my Savior, for who you are and all you've done. Passion, move your heart to save my soul. The universe declares your love for us. The splendor of your glory came from heaven. The proof of God pursuing us with love. How great is your love? My soul surrenders to who you are, all you've done. And I'll lift my praises to you, my Savior, for who you are, all you've done. And how great is your love? My soul surrenders to who you are, all you've done. And I lift my praises to you, my Savior, for who you are, all you've done. And we sing this together, maker of the heavens, maker of the heavens, there is none like you. My soul longs for you, and I believe that holy is your name, holy is your name, the most beautiful. None can stand against my King. Oh. Maker of the heavens, there is no like you. My soul longs
Good morning. Man, what a great day to be alive. So excited to see all you guys. We're going to take a minute. We're going to pray together. If this is your first time here, you caught us on one of our most important days. We call it Foundation Sunday. And a huge part of it is that we're doing in 2018 what is necessary to be fully engaged in 2019. And so we're building today a foundation for the future. And it's always one of those tricky things, especially for me. Because whenever I would be invited to go to church before I ever had a faith in Jesus, you know, there's always two things everybody says about churches. You know, they're just all about money, and I can't remember what the other one was. They're all about money. Oh, politics. That's the other one. Politics and money. You ever heard that? And so I've always been just really diligent to make sure that no one ever thought that about this community. And at the same time, we know that this doesn't happen by accident. So I want you to know what you're standing in right now, it's the result of other people having sacrificed in the past. So part of the way we do this is that we make it so clear, if you're a guest, we want you to know that you are just not obligated in any way to ever give. I mean, we think you should give somewhere because generosity makes the world better. But we want you to know that that's not what it's about for us with you. But those of us, this is like your tribe, your family, your community, your church. This is the time where we step up and we decide together what we want to do to serve the world. And so it's so important that we do this together. And so if you happen to be here for the first time, the other 51 weeks a year, you probably won't hear any mention about this, but today you are. But maybe it's good to get behind the curtain and to see what motivates us, to see what moves us, to see why we do what we do. All right, because we're really transparent. So welcome to the family. And let's pray together. Father, thank you so much for this beautiful day. And God, I'm excited. I'm just so excited about what you've been doing even to prepare for this day and what you're going to be doing in this day and what you're going to do out of this day, from this day. God, I thank you for the number of people that are going to step into just a new experience of serving others and sacrificing of what they have for the good of others. And God, I'm just going to just straight up say our country is a mess. And God, we just are just in such a volatile state. And we want to be a counterforce to all of that. God, we want to be, God, just a positive voice, a voice of love, a voice of hope. God, we want to remind people that there is another way, that we can be for each other, not against each other. And Jesus, I pray that you would just choose Hollywood, that you would choose Los Angeles to be a flagship across the world of what it looks like to be a beautiful humanity together. And in all of our imperfection, in all of our flaws, God, and every time we get it wrong, every time we don't even meet up to our own standards and our own ideals, we're just going to just lean into your grace and into your mercy and your goodness and know that you never expected us to be perfect. You just want us to be honest and authentic and real. So here we are, asking you to make us what we cannot be without you. Once again, Jesus, we just admit we need you. And for all of our guests who are here, for those who don't even know if they're sure about you and don't know if God exists or if Jesus is who he claims to be, God, I just pray that somehow today, even in this conversation, they would just feel overwhelmed by your love. They would be enveloped by your presence, and they would just have a sense that you see them, that they matter, that their life actually is a result of intention and not accident. Jesus, I want to thank you that 2,000 years ago, you stepped into human history and you gave your life for us and you came for us. I'm just overwhelmed that even when we were not looking for you, you were looking for us. So we stand in this moment because of you. We pray in your name. Amen. Can we just thank God for this morning? And then you can have a seat. Our theme that we're building on is you build what you love. And I still remember one day someone texted me and said, hey, this is really exciting. This really famous, influential actor saw our billboard that said, love built this. And he goes, that's so exciting that he actually posted on it. And then when he started reading it, he was posting shade. And he goes, love didn't build this. Wood built this. Concrete built this. Paint built this. People built this. Remember that? And even though he sounds pragmatically right, he was completely wrong. Because behind everything that's ever been built by a human being, there's always a deeper intention. In fact, whether we like the outcome of it or not, when you look back on your life, you will know what you love by what you built. And sometimes, perhaps a tragedy is that we have not lived our lives with enough intention to have built what we love. But very quickly along the way, we realize that we will surrender our love for other things. So I'm speaking from an ideal. I think sometimes in my life I've built by accident. Sometimes I've just built out of my mistakes. Sometimes I've built out of my indifference. Have you ever built what you didn't want to build? But I'm working from an ideal because, see, when you move towards your highest intention, when you begin to live your life the way God created you to live it, you build what you love. So I'm going to expect nothing less of you, nothing less of me, and nothing less of us. Because the world would be so much better if we built what we love and we actually loved the right things. There's a moment in the story of Jesus. It's after his crucifixion and after his resurrection and after his disciples had encounters with him. And it's one of the last conversations that Jesus has with Peter before he leaves them and pours out his Spirit into the world. And I don't know about you, but if I knew I was having my last conversation, that conversation would be dense with meaning. I would make sure that that last conversation was a conversation that echoed throughout history. So here's the last conversation Jesus has, the last encounter. And this is kind of a longer passage because there's almost 3 movements in it. And I need you to step into all 3 movements with me just for a few moments. In John chapter 21, beginning in verse 1, it says, afterward Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. I love the way John writes. He's aware that he's writing and that you're reading it. So Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. And when they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved, by the way, the disciple whom Jesus loved is John, and John is writing this. So he doesn't say, and then John, or he doesn't say, then I. He says, oh, let's keep it picturesque. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from the shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, bring some fish that you have caught. So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same thing with the fish. This was now the 3rd time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The 3rd time, he said this to John, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a 3rd time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. Peter turned and saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved, again, John, was following them. This was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, Lord, who is going to betray you? When Peter saw him, he asked, Lord, what about him? Jesus answered, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. Because of this, the rumor spread among the believers that this disciple would not die. But Jesus did not say that he would not die. He only said, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? Now, there's a strange series of sequences here. But I think they actually unwrap for us this theme that I want to propose to you, that you build what you love. Because not only for those of us here right in Hollywood, on the corner of Hollywood Boulevard and La Brea, but for our community in South Pasadena at the Rialto Theater, and our new community meeting right now for the first time in Seattle, which we want to welcome you guys right now. Our community has been out in Venice Beach that's joined us today. Our community in Mexico City that always connects with us week after week after week. And who knows where our next communities are going to be. Our community in Orange County that met last night. And it may seem like it's a little too ambitious that we're taking on so much. After all, no one's holding us accountable for doing more. Frankly, we could do so much less and people would be so much happier. We could do so much less, and it would require so much less of us. I could go to more movies. I could play basketball more. I could take a vacation. There's so many things that we could do that we actually give up to do more than anyone expects of us. And here you have this moment where Jesus is having a conversation with Peter, and he's actually not talking to him about outcome goals. He's talking to him about internal essence. It's to me astonishing that Jesus knew the future of his movement was in the hands of Peter right now. That Peter would become the first wave of leadership for this revolution that has touched the world, that has brought humanity hope that God is for them, that has taken this promise that God has stepped into human history in the person of Jesus, that he has been crucified, buried, and raised from the dead. And because of Peter, we're standing here today. And the conversation Jesus has with them is not strategic. It's not a structural. It's not about how to organize everybody. He has a conversation about love. Because he understands that everything comes out of love. And if there's no love, it'll just be an empty shell. It will be what we've come to know as religion. This is after Jesus has been crucified, after Jesus rose from the dead, after Jesus had had an encounter with the disciples. And when Jesus stepped back on the scene, they were all fishing again. Remember, it says that the disciples were together, Simon, Peter, Thomas, Nathaniel, John and James are the sons of Zebedee. Two other disciples who he didn't bother to name because they didn't do anything really significant. I don't want to be one of those. And then the disciple whom Jesus loved. And Simon says, I'm going to go fishing. And they all go, we'll go with you. What's amazing is that Peter had lost his intention so fast. I'm just going to go fishing. Peter went back to the life he had before he met Jesus. See, when you build what you love, you have to ask yourself, how has love changed you? Because here Jesus spends 3 years with his disciples and then interacts with them after his resurrection, after his crucifixion, and they're unchanged. They're living the same life they were living before Jesus came. They went back to fishing. And you might think, well, Peter, why didn't you do better? The others were so lost that when Peter said, I'm going fishing, they said, let's go. You know, the worst thing in the world is to follow someone who's going nowhere. But if you're following someone who's going nowhere, guess where you're going? Nowhere slower. At least they're going nowhere fast. which is why I think Jesus talked to Peter. Peter was going to go nowhere fast, and everyone was going to follow him. But what's astonishing to me is that Peter went back to the life he had before. Nothing changed. He seemed so shaken up by where he was in his life. And they went out and they caught nothing. Now, you can know that John was telling Peter's story because fishermen would never say they caught nothing. It was early in the morning and Jesus stood on the shore, but his disciples did not realize it was him. And he called out to them, "Friends, have you caught any fish?" That's how you know God has a sense of humor, because that's the last question a fisherman wants to hear when he knows he's caught nothing. And Jesus knew they caught nothing, so it's one of those questions. Hey, how'd you do? It's almost as if Jesus asked, hey, how did your old life go for you? How did the life that you had before you interacted with me, before I encountered you, how did your life before me go for you? Oh, it brought you nothing. So then Jesus says, friends, since you haven't caught any fish, because they said, no, we haven't caught anything, then throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. Now, anybody here a fisherman? Because one of the interesting things I know about fishermen is that fishermen always think they're the best. No one can fish better than them. And they did this as a career. And the last thing a fisherman wants is a non-fisherman telling them how to catch fish. See, of all the things Jesus was, is he wasn't a fisherman. He was a carpenter. And they didn't know who he was. He's some stranger right now. He says, throw it on the other side. You can almost feel the irritation inside of Peter's soul. Don't tell me how to fish. There are no fish out here today. Throw my net on the other side. You don't think I've done that? I've thrown it on both sides multiple times. But they did. That shows you how desperate they were. And they were unable to haul in the net because of the large number of fish. And Jesus seems to be setting the table for them, saying, I want you to know something. If you go back to the life you had before me, it's going to leave you with nothing. And if I go into your life with you, it's going to be full. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved, said to Peter, I know who it is. It's the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard this, it is the Lord. He wrapped his outer garment, went out, and jumped into the water. And the other disciples followed. See, Peter, whatever he did, everyone followed him. And so since Peter decided to do nothing with his life, they were doing nothing with their lives. And the question just begs, it just demands to be asked, how has love changed you? If you're here, you say you've come to know Jesus. If you're here, you say that Jesus has changed your life. If you're here and you've confessed God has stepped into human history in the person of Jesus Christ, taking on flesh and blood, dying on the cross, being buried, raised from the dead, how has that changed you? How has love altered your existence? And they followed him, towing the net full of fish. And they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. And I think verse 9 is so interesting. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it with some bread. Jesus had already started dinner or breakfast. He already had a fire with fish. He already had fish. He didn't even need them to throw the net. He already caught fish while they were out getting nothing. If they had just been where Jesus was, they would already be sitting around a fire eating fish. See, Jesus is waiting for you in your future. But he's not waiting for you in your past. He's trying to call you out of your past into his future. Some of you are on a boat with empty nets while Jesus has already heated a fire waiting for you to come and eat with him. And then Jesus and Peter begin to have a conversation. Jesus said to them, bring some of your fish. I love how he says, bring some of the fish you have just caught. Jesus didn't even take credit for the fish they caught. He said, you bring some of the fish you caught. They all knew they didn't catch those fish. See, some of you, you've had great success in your life, and a huge part of your challenge is when God asks you to give of what he's given you, you forgot he gave it to you. You actually thought you caught the fish, and you think God is being a little intrusive by asking for some of the fish that he put into your net. That's just a side note. Because that's where greed is born. When we think we're the ones who fill our nets. And so we don't want to share with the one who actually filled them. And there's a strange interaction that happens now. You know it, many of you. Jesus has a conversation with Simon, and in beginning verse 15, and when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. And again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said this, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Now, there's some theories about why Jesus asked him this question 3 times, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Because it is not incidental that Peter denies Jesus 3 times before his crucifixion. That 3 times Peter was asked, aren't you one of them? Aren't you with him? Aren't you one of them? And Peter says, no, I'm not, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. I don't know him, get away from me. And so I think there is a parallel here because Peter denies Jesus 3 times and now Peter is forced to declare his love for Jesus 3 times. But I don't think this is Jesus trying to stick it to Peter. If anything, it's Jesus taking him through a soul cleanser. Saying, Peter, I'm going to put your past in the past. This is your future. But there's more going on than that, I'm convinced. Because one, do you notice how, you ever read a book and a character has 2 names and you're sure, wait a minute, who are they talking about? Because here in the very same narrative, Simon, son of John, is also called Peter. In fact, every time John talks about him, he's talking about Peter. And every time Jesus is talking to him, he's calling him Simon, son of John. But the strange thing is that John knew Peter as Simon, son of John. Only Jesus knew Peter as Peter. See, Peter only became Peter because of Jesus. Now Jesus is calling him Simon, son of John. It's as if Jesus is saying to him, you are still acting like you are who you were before you knew my love. Like, why are you calling me Simon, son of John? I'm Peter. And John knew that. He kept saying, and then Peter said this. And then Jesus calls him again, Simon, son of John. Who do you belong to? It seems that Peter forgot he belonged to Jesus. He was living like he was still Simon, son of John, not Peter, follower of Jesus. But John, he slips in a little nuance. I think it's real important because John seems to be very, very specific. In verse 14, he says, now this was the 3rd time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. So I think there's a lot of threes here. We know that earlier, Peter denies Jesus 3 times. And we know that now Jesus is asking him the question, do you love me 3 times? But John doesn't want us to miss this. This is the 3rd time Jesus has showed up. I mean, you think this was the 1st time. But Jesus rose from the dead and showed up on Sunday. By the way, that's why we show up on Sunday. Jesus showed up on Sunday and they went, you're alive. And Thomas wasn't there. He said, I don't believe you. And so Jesus shows up the next Sunday and Thomas is there. He goes, okay, I'm in. I'm really condensing the story. And this is the 3rd time Jesus shows up. See, maybe it's Jesus asking this question 3 times, saying, Simon, how many times do I have to show up before love changes you? Do you love me? See, when you live your life determined that you're going to build what you love, you have to ask yourself the question, how has love changed you? How has your encounter with Jesus changed your life? Because what you love determines who you become. And who you love will shape who you are. See, when you fall in love with Jesus, it actually changes who you are. It changes the construct of your soul. It changes the passions of your heart. It changes your ambitions. It changes your desires. It changes your actions, changes your priorities and values. Jesus changes us because love changes us. And I think it's really important to note that Jesus never talks about a single rule, never talks about a single code. He doesn't bring up morality or doctrine. He just talks about love because he believes that love is the most powerful force in the world. Peter, if you can just get a hold of this, if you can focus your love toward me, it will change you forever. And then you know how the conversation goes. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Then feed my lambs. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Then take care of my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, you know. And I think this is the most courageous thing Peter ever said. In verse 17 it says, Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him a third time, do you love me? And Peter looks at Jesus and says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Wow. Can you imagine being so confident in your love that you can say, God, you see right through me. Jesus, you know everything. I can't hide anything from you. So you know the answer to this question. And Peter wasn't worried that Jesus would look into his soul and say, that's what I thought. I knew you didn't love me. I knew it was just conditional. I knew it was partial. I knew I was just one of your interests. Peter says, look inside of my soul. Jesus, what do you see here? You know that I love you. That gives me such incredible hope. You ever feel like you're just imperfect? You just can't get it right? You're just not good enough? There's something about the power of love. That when you've been transformed by the power of love, you can just open your heart and say, you know my heart. I get things wrong. I mess up all the time. I'm imperfect, but you know my intention. You know that I love you. But it's the third part of this narrative that's really important because there's three movements. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Feed my sheep. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Feed my lambs. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Take care of my sheep. Can you imagine this narrative without the third line? It would be the most self-indulgent conversation. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. But do you really love me? I really, really love you. Yeah, but do you really, really, really love me? Oh, you know I love you. Let's just bask in this love. See, because I think that's what a lot of us want. We want this self-indulgent love that's just you and God. It's just me and God. Get out of my way. When Kim and I were first married, one of the struggles we had was we had this tiny little apartment, but there was this one room, and I'd just go in that room and I'd just lock the door. You remember when I used to do that? And I'd go in there for hours because it's just me and God. And sometimes she'd knock, hello, honey, hi. And she'd say, well, could we do that together? I go, no. It's just like my space. It's like me and God. And because even though we were married, I was still single. I hadn't transitioned my heart. And I had this like self-indulgent relationship where it's just me and Jesus, and I didn't know how to bring someone else into it. And here Jesus doesn't even let him sit in it for a moment. Because if you love me, then you have to love people. See, the conversation shifts completely because of that last part. You have to ask yourself, how has love changed me? But then you have to shift right away and go, how has your love changed the world? It's because love doesn't change you until you start building and serving and investing in other people. The only way you can know if love has changed you is if it changes the way you relate to other people. See, this is the beautiful thing about God. It's as if God's saying, love me, love me, love me. And we go, all right, I love you. And the moment we do, we go, perfect. Boom. I'm dispensing that love. See, I have news for you. God does not need your love. He's the source of all love. And so why would God call us to love him if he doesn't need our love? It's because he wants to direct our love to those who need love. The moment Peter says, you know I love you, he goes, then feed my sheep. Take care of people. Oh, by the way, I always think it's funny. This phrase, I think, is one of the most misapplied phrases I've ever seen. Feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my sheep. Most of the time, because I didn't grow up in faith, I didn't grow up in church, this was all new to me. And so it's always interesting to me when people interpret the Bible in a way that actually is clearly not possible. But you know, for a lot of people, tradition is more important than truth. Just a side note. When Jesus said to Peter, feed my sheep, you know how churches apply that? See, that's why we're supposed to just preach the Bible to Christians. And I hear Christians all the time saying, I want to be fed, I want to be fed, it's like we're like, We're like little birdlings all our life, you know, and like somebody chew the worm and put it in my mouth, all right, you know. I know, it's a great image though. And, I want to get fed, and that's what the church is supposed to be. See, and a lot of people go to like seminary and go, my calling is to feed the sheep. I just want to preach the word of God. But here's the funny thing. A, there was no New Testament, so there was like no word of God that Christians use a lot. B, there were no Christians. There were no churches. So when Jesus said, feed my sheep, who was he talking about? There were no people who believed in Jesus. Everyone who believed in Jesus was in that boat doing nothing. Wow, some things haven't changed at all. Oh, and I told my son not to throw shade. See, if Peter did what we're doing 2,000 years later, he would call like John and James and Bartholomew and Nathaniel and he'd go, all right, everybody, out of the boat. I got to feed you. Because that's what Jesus said. My job is to feed you. So sit down. All right, open up to 1 Peter. I haven't written it yet. It's working. It's a work in progress in my head. And he would have spent his whole life just teaching those 11, and they would all ended in one generation. If they applied what Jesus said the way it's being applied today, the church wouldn't even exist. See, the only way it could be applied is that Jesus saying, Peter, and in fact, Jesus says this strange thing. He says, Peter, do you love me more than these? It's an interesting thing because a lot of people say, well, Jesus is pointing to the fish and saying, do you love me more than these? I'm going, I don't know, that's not that compelling, right? Okay, yes, Jesus, I love you more than fish. It was hard. It was a tough call. I worked my way through that, but God, fish. I'm going with God, okay? God or God, there we go. Sorry. And it just doesn't feel that compelling. I mean, I understand it could be a metaphor for do you love the life I'm calling you to more than the life that I'm calling you from? That might be there. But I also think Jesus is pointing to his friends, to his disciples, to the people he's comfortable with in the boat and saying, do you love me more than these? See, I think what Jesus is saying is, Peter, the great danger now is to want to hide with the people you know and trust, the people that you're comfortable with, the people who already believe in me. And what I need you to do is I need you to leave the comfort and security which you have and to see that I have sheep all over the world because there are people who desperately need God. And I love them, even though you don't. I think God is always calling us. And it's not simply to love him, or maybe it is. But that love never simply focuses on God. The measure of your love for God can only be seen in the measure of your love for people. And this isn't your love for people who believe in God. This isn't your love for people who believe in Jesus. This isn't about your love for people who already belong here. This is about our love for people who completely disagree with us. This is about our love for people who violate everything we think is important. This is about loving every human being of any religion, of any faith, of any color, of any ethnicity, of any nation on the planet. And let me tell you, if there's room in your heart to hate a human being, then there isn't room in your heart to love God. Because when you love God, there is no room for hate. Do you love me more than these? How has your love for Jesus translated into your love for people? And I think it's really important. I was thinking this morning how the word church has become such a negative word. But I need to realize it's almost like a beautiful word. Because every species has like a communal language. Like when you have lions all together, they're called a pride. When you have sheep, they're called a flock. When you have a bunch of owls together, they're called a parliament, which is kind of cool. When you have a bunch of crows, they're called a murder. I know, it's scary, isn't it? Yeah. When a bunch of vultures come together, they're called a committee, which explains almost everything in Washington. And, sorry. When you have a bunch of flamingos, they're called the flamboyant, which explains a lot of Christian television. And, I'm sorry. When you bring together a bunch of humans, we have so many words. It can be called a family. It can be called a community. It can be called a tribe. But when a person says, I love God and I love people, but I hate the church, you're actually saying something like, I love lions, but I hate the prides. You know, I love flamingos, but I hate the flamboyants. See, the reality is, a church, the church, happens when humans come together. And they decide that their love is directed to Jesus and directed by Jesus to the world. See, the church is supposed to be what describes humans when we reclaim our humanity. Oh, just one last thought, and then we're going to move to the practical part. So then Jesus has this conversation with Peter, it's over, and then Jesus switches the conversation, verse 18, and says, oh, by the way, when you were younger, you dressed yourself, went where you wanted, and when you were old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. And it's a very obscure metaphor, so John wants it to be really clear. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. I'm sure Peter really appreciated John clarifying that. And then Jesus said to Peter, follow me. And then Peter turned and saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, John, following them. He was the one who leaned back against Jesus because Jesus loved him. And at the supper said, Lord, who's going to betray you? And then Peter says, Lord, what about him? I love this. This is so human. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Peter, do you love me? Yes, I love you. Feed my sheep, feed my sheep, feed my sheep. And by the way, you're going to die. I thought we were talking about love, not like death. He goes, yeah. You cannot have a conversation about love and then not end in sacrifice. So when Jesus says, Peter, and you're going to die, they're going to take you away. It's going to cost you your life. It's going to cost you your freedom. I love Peter's response. What about John? Is he going to die too? Is he going to have to sacrifice it? Because I'm okay with it if he has to too. Because you always liked him better. The disciple whom Jesus loved. What about him? I think John's like, hey, I'm out of this conversation. I'm just writing things down. I'm just writing things down. And then Jesus says, hey, if I don't want him to die, what's that to you? You follow me. And then John has to add this. He says, by the way, this is how the rumor spread that I would never die. Because Jesus didn't say I would never die. He just said, if I don't want him to die, what's that to you? It's a lot. See, what about if today God calls you to make a great sacrifice, but he doesn't call the person next to you to make the same great sacrifice? See, I think we keep waiting for someone else to make the sacrifice. See, I think a lot of us have that Peter moment. What about him? See, I wonder how many of us are saying, God, I'll step up until someone else, but I'm going to wait until someone else steps up. God, I'm going to sacrifice, but I don't want to stand here alone. And Jesus saying, look, follow me. Because see, you have to ask yourself, if you're going to build what you love, then you have to ask yourself the question, how has love changed me? And how is love changing the world through me? But then you have to step back and ask the honest question, has love changed me? And Jesus presses Peter and he says, it's going to cost you everything. I'm not going to lie to you. This is not going to be easy. I'm not going to paint a picture that makes it easier for you to feel like you love me. I need you to step into this moment, Peter, and know that love is going to cost you everything. I want you to understand this. That even though in a moment we're gonna receive what we call an offering for Foundation Sunday, and even though you may be across the world on a live stream in Berlin or Tokyo or Sydney, or maybe you're in Seattle or wherever you may be, or here in Hollywood, it goes so much beyond the ask of this moment. Because Jesus gave his life for you. See, he didn't measure how much it would cost for love to win you. Jesus just decided, I'm going to pay everything it takes for my love to capture them. Now, I want you to know the reason that we're here, the reason we're in this place, the reason love has changed us is because God did not decide, no, the cost is too high to win them back to myself. I want you to just let this sink in for a moment. There was no cost too high for God to love you. So what is the cost of your love? What is the measure of your love? Where's the proof of love? I always hesitate saying these things, but I'm just going to tell you, like last year, before we came to Foundation Sunday, we were really financially thin. And Kim and I, we went and took a line of credit on our house. And I think it might have been $100,000. We just took a line of credit of $100,000. Like, people always talk about pastors are trying to use churches for money. See, the reason I'm telling you this is because, see, we're not here because this is not an economic strategy. This is the hardest job in the world with the least reward in a practical sense. I had a journalist ask me this week, they were calling me up and interviewing me, and they clearly Wikipedia'd me, and I said, well, yeah, but you were in fashion and film, and you worked as a futurist, so why would you do this? I said, I know, I ask myself that question all the time, because it's the most difficult choice on earth. But when you realize that humanity desperately needs Jesus, it's the easiest decision in the world. And I want you to know that Kim and I, we're not asking you to make a sacrifice that we don't make. But we are asking you to join us because we don't want to make it alone. We want a tribe, a community, a family, a church that says we're going to build and our material is love. And we're going to sacrifice together, not for ourselves, but for others. Everything we give today is for someone who has never walked in these doors. Everything we give today is for someone who may never say thank you. Everything we give today is not out of obligation and not even based on the outcome. It's simply because of love. Because someone has to go first and say, I love you, no matter what. Could I just ask you to bow your heads with me just for a moment? There may be someone here that what you actually need is you just need to step into love. You need to step into the love that Jesus has. And for you, the conversation about Foundation Sunday is a later conversation. The conversation for you right now is that there was a Sunday Jesus rose from the dead. And he's here right now. And he wants to forgive you and set you free. He wants to give you new life. And if you're here and you know you need love, you need what Jesus alone can give you, and you're ready to cross the line of faith and give your life to Jesus, I want to lead you in a simple prayer, just one sentence. Jesus, I give you my life. That's it. It's not everything you and God need to talk about. It's a starting point. But right now, just whisper to him, Jesus, I give you my life right now. If you're here and you're just tired of struggling through life alone, you're just tired of dealing with the emptiness inside, and you're ready to trust God with your life, just right now, just whisper to him, Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. If that's you, before we go any further, I want to pray for you. If you're here and you just whispered that prayer, Jesus, I give you my life, I want you right now just to hold your hand up, and I want to pray for you just real quickly. Beautiful, beautiful, all over the room. Anyone else? Wonderful. Anyone else right now? Jesus, I give you my life. It's the best decision you'll ever make, crossing that line of faith, letting love capture you. Anyone else right now? Jesus, I give you my life. Father, I thank you for the beautiful men and women who in this moment have opened up their lives to you and just whispered this prayer.
And Jesus, I know that 2,000 years ago, you gave your life for them. And you've just been waiting for them to give their life to you. So I pray, God, you would just wrap them up in your love and let them know they belong to you. And this is the beginning of new things, of new life, of a new future. We thank you, Father. We thank you, Jesus. And we pray in your name. Amen. Can we just thank God for all those who respond to him right now? Beautiful. All right. Can you guys give me 5 more minutes? Because now I want to walk you through the steps for Foundation Sunday. I didn't want to just talk about giving today, because life is about love. And if we don't give out of love, it will not change us. And I want that everything we do. You know what's amazing? It's kind of strange. Scientists are discovering that if you sing to water, or if you have positive thoughts to water, it actually affects the actual composition of the water. Is that crazy? My wife's like, that is crazy. I don't believe that. I mean, I was just having a conversation a week ago about this. And I thought, okay, let's just say that's almost insane, but partially true. When we give, if we give out of obligation, I don't think that giving has the same power. When we give out of generosity, when we give out of compassion, when we give out of love, when we give out of inspiration, I think that giving has greater power in the world. So I'm just going to walk you through a couple of quick slides, past and present. Here we are, just real quick, 216, 217, 218. 216, we had 3,757 people come to Jesus. Last year, we had 3,775, was a slight increase. But this year, we haven't even finished the year, we've had 6,440 people come to know Jesus. Isn't that incredible? By the way, we never talk about these numbers. This is your chance to see. 216, 169 people baptized in the corner out here around the city, 535 last year, but already this year we had 733 people who followed Jesus in baptism. Here's the crazy thing. 216, we had 2,586 people here every week. 217, 2,785 across our campuses. But this year, you're coming fast and hard. Our campuses have had 4,900 people every week. Is that incredible? So while it's wonderful to have so many people, people cost money. And they don't give money when they come because they're just trying to figure things out. Sometimes it takes years for them to make that shift from receiving to investing. So we have to give in that interim so that we can serve them. So our budget in 216 was $4.4 million. Our budget in 217 was $5.9 million. And our budget for 218 is $7 million. And it's been going up and up and up. But I want to give you some perspective on this. And our growth rate has shifted. Let's keep going. I want you to see where we've gone. We had one campus in 216 right here in Hollywood. 217, we added South Pasadena and Venice. 218, we added Mexico City. All right, there you go. 218, we went down to Orange County. Oh. And today, for the first time, we add Seattle. All right, I'm not gonna do all this. This is all in the app if you want to get the details. Well, go back, but that was hyperbole. All right, but I do want you to know one thing. On the far right, 839,000 live stream views in 71 countries. That means there are people all over the world that could never afford to receive what we give them. But when we give, we provide it for free for them across the world. I love that. All right, you can go to the next one. Oh yeah, I did this, I had this thought. I want you to see something. I picked 3 of the most conservative cities in America, 4. And I don't know if you know that our city would be like one of the most progressive cities in America. I don't know if you're aware of that. But, because our $8.7 billion budget sounds like a lot, but I want you to realize a comparable church smaller than us of 3,200 in Dallas, their budget is $15.6 million. Chicago, about the size of our church, $20 million budget. Atlanta, a little bigger than us, $23 million budget. And in Charlotte, a church almost our size, about a $40 million budget. So when you look at an $8.7 million budget, it may seem like a lot, but here's what I kind of want to, I don't know how to say this in a really like PC way, but if you ever wonder why Christianity in America has more influence from conservative places, it's because conservatives give more money. And no one's going to pick us. No one in Chicago, or Atlanta, or Charlotte's gonna go, hey, we should really do something significant in Hollywood and create a beautiful community there. This is our responsibility. It's our mission. It's our challenge. And so I just want to challenge us as a congregation. Let's become so generous that these pale in comparison. So even while we want to achieve our $8.7 million budget, I want you to realize how easy it is. Let's get to the next slide. We have 4,900 average weekly attendance, one church, 6 location. Our budget is projected to 8.7 million. Go to the next one. If 3,500 people actually gave, 2,485 a year, that would be $207 a month. That's $48 a week. If everyone in our community minimally gave $50 a week, we would go so far over our budget. So what that means is that most of our congregation actually hasn't yet become generous givers. And so I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. One, what we need today, last year we gave almost $1 million on Foundation Sunday. It allowed us to do everything we did this year. So I'm going to ask you guys, because I don't want to have to do this except 1 week a year. So I'm going to ask you today, if you have the capacity to make the most generous gift you can, just a one-time gift. I just know some of you could just write a check for $1 million. I know you're there. And you just haven't showed up yet, financially, but you've shown up physically. And there's some of you could give $100,000. Some of you could give $50,000. Some of you could give $5,000. And I've had different times in my life so I could give more than other times. It's not about how much you give, but you should measure your sacrifice and your generosity. So I'm going to ask you to make this one-time gift. But what I'm asking everyone is to take it upon yourself to become a part of this community and become investors. And I'm just going to challenge you to get to the place where you start giving 10% of your income and you tithe. Because if we do that together, our budget would actually triple. And we would be able to do so much more. We didn't even list here everything we're doing all around the world because there's so much going on that it's extraordinary. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a moment right now. We have these envelopes here. Honey, come here. I want you to come up with me because we're going to do this actually. She doesn't know this. So I know most of us give online or on the app. But what I want to do is I kind of like, honestly, we're going to just count it up. Yeah, just like that. So what I want you to do is if you give online, if you give through the app, or if you give electronically, could you still take one of these and just write on it, electronic, and then we'll know what you gave. And we're going to do this right now. We're going to take a moment. I've been thinking about this just for today, that we just do that right now, okay? And then you can fill in the information. And so what I encourage you to do is go on the app, make a one-time gift, and then become a recurring giver. Become a recurring giver here at Mosaic. I don't know about you, but I love our city. And I love what God is doing from Los Angeles. And what's happening from LA is touching Mexico City and Seattle. It's pouring into Orange County. It's going to Venice Beach, South Pasadena. I'm telling you, one day we're gonna have a vibrant community in Tokyo. We're gonna see the influence of Mosaic around the world because I'm convinced that Jesus is so beautiful and so compelling, but so oftentimes the way that we choose to do church makes Jesus seem irrelevant and outdated. How we do community together is the best expression and evidence of who Jesus is. That's why Mosaic is so important. And maybe you're here and you're watching on live stream. I want you to go online right now. We never talk to you guys. It feels a little strange. But you guys email me and text me and DM me all the time. So I'm going to take a moment and say to you, if Mosaic is important to you, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in the country, I want you right now just take a moment and go to the app, download it, and just make the largest gift you can. All right? Hey, for those of you who are guests, come back next week. We're going to start Christmas. My wife said my pants were already too Christmassy. And I just said, don't talk to me. And, but I'm ready for the holidays. And we've been doing this for 60 years, Christmas. I've never gotten tired of giving. I've never gotten tired of buying presents for the people I love. I love selecting carefully the presents I buy for all my family. And I know that that's because I love them and I love to give. And so this is a moment where we give. Is there anything else we need to do? All right, let's give together. Oh, we don't pass buckets. Oh yeah, we are. To drop this thing. Come here. Oh, here you go. If you have this filled out, just turn it in right now if you would. All right, we're gonna sing one last song. Let people have this moment. Hey guys, thank you so much. Love you. We'll see you next week. And we're gonna have a great holiday season. Stand together and worship.
So phenomenal. I am changed. I feel like we're all being changed by that talk. So can you please join us in thanking Pastor Erwin for that incredible message?
Come on. Incredible.
I'm wrecked. I'm crying and everything.
Just so beautiful. What an incredible Foundation Sunday that we just get to have a day together where we lay the groundwork for all that we feel like God has called us to do. So if you're here and you want to be a part of this, and maybe the bucket went by too fast, don't worry. There's still time. So make sure on your seat, we have this envelope, the Foundation envelope, and go on there and put a pledge of what you're pledging to be a part of. Or if you already went online and gave, go ahead and mark that. We want to be able to just track all that God is doing, all the sacrifice in the movement.
Yeah.
And then finally, if you're here and even you want to give like a really large donation, and we're just going to say, if you, like 100,000 and above, that's what we're going to determine as a large donation. If that's you and you're here, we would love to meet you. We're going to have our team over in the La Brea lobby right there. So if you're like, I am excited, I want to build this foundation together, and I want to give at a high level, come to the La Brea lobby. We'll meet you there and say hi. And then we got an amazing week coming up, Thanksgiving week, which is exciting. And so if you're in town and you need a place to go where you want to invite friends, here in Hollywood, we're going to be at Griffith Park on Thanksgiving Day. So we'd love to invite you there 12 p.m. and bring anybody who can be a part of that. And then you go online, mosaic.org/events, and you get all the info for that. But just want to encourage you, bring friends.
And I loved seeing so many hands raised here, giving their lives to Jesus, and we want to applaud and thank you because we know that was such a big step, and I saw so much courage.
So good.
people even afterwards just like, I'm doing this, and I know that will be the best decision you've ever made and will make. And we want to give you this amazing gift, which is the scriptures. And just like the story that Pastor Erwin shared today, it's just about people doing life together, making mistakes, but seeing the grace of God and the love of God. So let's do life together. We want to do life with you. So welcome home. And at the back of it, it says you belong here, because we want you to know that you belong here with us. We love you guys. Have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next Sunday.
God bless. Yep.